So welcome again to Is Your Organization Driving Frontline Workers Away? So what we want to talk about today is this idea of the frustration that we're all having right now with the attraction and retention process. And how can we move from this place of frustration to a place where people are coming to us because they recognize that we're a workplace of choice, that's the reputation that we have, perhaps in our industry or certainly in the market in which we are recruiting. And that doesn't mean you have to have all the public accolades like, oh, we won best places to work 3 straight years, those kind of things. It's just your street cred, okay? That when people are talking about you, they're saying, hey, ABC company, they're legit, and I've been hearing good things about them, or I work there and it's great. That kind of organic PR you can't get anywhere else and is the most valuable that you can possibly use. And so those are the things that we're going to touch on today. So you are in the right place, and spending the next hour with us is going to be super valuable for you if you've got positions that are staying open too long. I just got back last night from working with a client down in Texas, and one of the folks said, yeah, I've got a manager position open that's been open since July of 22. I said, it's 24, right? You mean 23? She goes, no, since July of 22. And I went, oh, that's kind of long, right? So it's making her job as an area manager, a territory manager, much more difficult because she's spending more time at that one location because it's absent a local manager. And so if you're understaffed and as a result, your team's getting overworked and managers don't have the time to cross train because they're already short. And so we're not having the time to develop the skills of our existing people. We want to address that today. And finally, you believe you've got some really good jobs to offer people. It's good working environment, good pay, and you just can't find the people to fill those jobs. These are all symptoms of the economy and the labor market that we're in, but that doesn't mean that we're helpless. And we're going to walk out of here in an hour with giving you some tools to take charge of these three things for yourselves. And so if you've been with us a couple times, you kind of know why we do this series. They're free. We love doing it free because, why not? We like making a difference in the quality of workplaces. I genuinely, when I see my clients hurting, it hurts me. Like, I want them to be successful. I don't want them to have unnecessary frustrations from a labor force standpoint. I want to see them spending their energy doing the things that's going to grow their business, and not be worried about, well, we can't do this or that because we just don't have the people. And so that comes back to, what's our why? Why do we get out of bed in the morning? Why do we work with our clients in the ways that we do? Because we want to see them thrive. And I think it's important to know our whys no matter what we're doing. And that's what actually gives me the most professional pleasure. And I don't want to speak for Paul. He'll introduce himself here in a moment. But when my clients succeed, that's what makes me feel good if I've been a part of that success. And so we want to share the lessons we're learning from clients we're working with you so that you can take those lessons learned and apply those back to your workplaces. So quick blurb for next month, if you want to get this on the calendar for yourself. We'll be kind of continuing this talk on candidate attraction, but we're going to focus on two very simple promises you have to make in the marketplace if you're going to attract the top talent. And that'll be March 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And again, you can hit my website up, edcrow.com/webinars, and you'll get the link for that registration. So here's our agenda today. We're going to look, and we all have these, the business processes that you have that are working against you. What are the things that we're doing? Maybe it's just because we've always done them. Maybe it's because We don't know that they're working against us. Maybe there are things that we have to do in our industry because of some regulatory concern. So we don't have a choice but to do them, but they might be working against us. So we've got to analyze that and figure out how we can work around those things. We're going to identify why your candidate experience might actually be turning applicants off before they ever even hit the apply button. So we know that there is an incredible dropout rate right now from the time that someone submits a resume until they interview with you, until you make the hire. And I know all of you can probably share with me various stories of ghosting that have occurred at different stages of the process. But we want to figure out why. What is going on there that they're ghosting you, that they're dropping out of the pool? For instance, there's all kinds of analytics out there for online shopping. And there's actually a company local to us here in central Pennsylvania that specializes in helping companies identify cart abandonment. You know, when you're online, you put some stuff in your cart and you're like, I don't want that. You go to a different site. They analyze these kinds of things. And maybe you've done that, and then you've gotten a little ping that said, hey, you still have stuff in your cart, like an hour later or something, okay? Well, we want to try and figure the same things out with our candidates. Why are they putting their resume in our cart and then not buying from us? And finally, how do we really get an honest look at our culture and share that with the candidates so that they're already bought into who we are, maybe before they ever apply, and maybe before they even ever interview? So how are we nurturing them along that path? We'll take a look at that as well. So for those of you that are new, I am Ed Crow. I am the talent transformation expert for companies seeking 8-figure growth. I work with clients throughout the U.S. and even up into Paul's home place of Canada on various issues surrounding talent and leadership development. And so I met Paul a couple years ago, introduced by a mutual friend. Paul actually helped me craft some of my story from a marketing perspective. And I said, my clients need to know this guy. And so that's how Paul and I have been working together now for the last couple of years. So Paul, you want to say a couple things about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, when we met, Ed started talking, just telling me about what he was doing, and I listened and I thought, sounds like yes, you're working in the HR sphere, but really, I mean, you're talking to the business owners, you're talking to people higher up that really need to be involved in this HR process so that they can change what the inside of their company is like for these people they're trying to attract. And then having been a chiropractor in practice, something I haven't done since about 2013, I spent a lot of time listening to the people probably from your companies, that were complaining and moaning about how it was to go to work for different organizations and how it became actual physical pains in their body. And so I care a lot about how people are doing in their workplaces. And through my connection with Ed, now I actually get to impact the other side of the desk and see how we can make workplaces better for employees. But I listen to people, I hear the things that don't get said, and I find those undertones. Ed says that I kind of sucked his brain out and I put it back together and gave him something that he was like, I didn't even know that was in there. So that's what I've been doing with our clients, is just finding the really great stories about why workplaces are unique, why people love working there, things that really should be highlighted and brought to the forefront that nobody's talking about. And there's always something that we can find about every workplace. So
Absolutely.
that's what my connection is here.
We all have a story, and Paul's going to give you some examples of some pretty cool stories later on in the hour here. Okay, so let's talk about business processes. So here's where I'd like to get interactive. So would you throw in the chat for us a business process that you believe gets in the way of your ability to attract and retain talent? And I'm going to ask you guys to do this first before I give you some examples of clients that you might go, oh boy, yeah, we're doing that too. I just want to see what's going on with those of you that are in the room today. What do you think gets in the way from a recruitment or a retention standpoint? And again, I want you to think process. Don't say, oh, money. That's not a process. Your compensation plan is. What do you think, Paul? Should I give him a hint?
I think, yeah, maybe talk about how the things we've always done or the way things have been done or things, processes that you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
seem to get people to drop.
So, how many of you do this? And be honest. You have a job posted, and you've got all the information about the job, and it says submit your resume here. So I submit my resume. Then what happens? Oh, are you authorized to work in the U.S.? Yep. Are you 18 or over? Yep. I don't know. Do you have a valid driver's license? Yep. Where did you go to school? Well, wait a minute. That's on my resume. What was your last work? Oh, that's on my resume. Can you give me some references? Oh, that's on my resume. That's a business process. And if I've just uploaded my resume to you with all that information on it, and now you're asking me to type it in, to me, what that's saying as a candidate is, well, wait a minute, you overcomplicate things. Is this what life is going to be like when I work there? I'm going to have to double submit things. So that's one example. And some folks have said, yeah, we do that, but that's our stupid applicant tracking system makes that happen. And my response is, then go find another applicant tracking system, right? Because people won't do that today. And they don't have to do that today. And again, as HR folks and business professionals, we can moan and groan about people today not wanting to do that. But you have to ask yourself, would you want to do that? Would you want to take the time to resubmit everything that's going on? So Christy says the urgency in filling positions immediately. And so, Christy, I think I know where you're headed there. And that's that it's the warm body syndrome. So, got to go, 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 go. And maybe production is saying we need the body in here now. And so, oh, there you go. 2 hands are better than none. Yeah, exactly. And so we get into the situation where we lower our standards to get that body in the door. And now we break down some of the fundamentals of what we've got going on. Pam says, I say nobody is better than anybody. Now, that's a good one, Pam. I'm going to use that one because sometimes having that empty seat absolutely is better than having the wrong person in that seat. So we really do have to look at our processes and ask ourselves, even in a situation where there's maybe some type of regulation. Okay, so I was with a banking client the last couple of days, and of course, it's a highly regulated industry. And so there are certain things they have to do. It's not like we can shortcut around it. So we have to say, okay, we know this process is getting in the way. How do we mitigate that risk? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. And so this could be some homework for you. Really take a look at what's going on in your department that's getting in the way. So another example, I had a client, it was a privately held company where for any management position, the owner had to be in an interview and it had to be live. Well, they're a nationwide company and he travels a lot. And so it would slow the hiring down, and they were flushing quality candidates out because these candidates had other offers on the table and didn't want to wait 2 weeks just to have an interview with the owner. And so he and I talked quite extensively about the fact that he's losing talent because of this. And he felt that Zoom, something like this was not a good way to get a sense of who someone was. I said, okay, I can get that. But if you have a good COO and a good CFO, and those are your right-hand people, why wouldn't you trust them to make that business decision for you to bring someone? Both of these folks had been with him for like 20 plus years. They all helped grow the company together. Why wouldn't you turn some of that responsibility over? And it took him a while before he kind of came to the idea like, yeah, I guess I better do. So, but that was a process. And so those are things. What are your, sometimes we call them the sacred cows, right? Oh, can't touch that one. Sometimes we have to look at those things and just ask the question, what if we didn't do it that way? What would happen? So here's the thing. And maybe if you've attended one of our webinars in the past, you've heard me use this phrase. We are in the experience age now. And if you take a look at the pictures that we've chosen here, you'll see that the theme is that none of these are, we'll call them the standard mug shots of someone just standing against a wall taking the picture, right? They're, in some cases, they're selfies or whatever of people experiencing things. You see emotion in these pictures. This is a huge concept for us. We're going to spend a lot of time today on this idea because people want and are expecting an experience from their employment. The challenge is, and Paul's going to talk about this, we have to also provide an experience for the candidates. What is it like for someone who is trying to decide whether they want to work for you? What do they know about you? What can they find out about you? And he's going to give you some examples later on, because what they're trying to figure out is they're trying to get a grasp on your culture and what life between 9 and 5 is going to be like at your place of business. And that life is not just the job they're going to be doing. It's the experience of the work environment in which they'll be doing that job. This is a massive shift. And so if you think about this concept of the information age, where we just craved information, the shift is now, okay, we can get information anywhere. It's what do we do with it? How do we experience it? How do we want to process it? That is the big move and will be a theme for the next half hour or so of our time together. So Paul, I'm going to throw it over to you here.
Okay, just go back to the last slide.
Go back to the last
old
one,
school
sure.
slides, new school slides here. All these pictures here are, if you look, you can tell they're selfies, right? Now, just quickly, if you can throw in the chat, why do people take selfies? What are they trying to do?
Great question.
I mean, aside from trying to find the best angle where your face looks the best and where the light's hitting and not making, you know, the sheet face from sleeping on your on that side of your face show up, or all those things. But why do you take a selfie? And why are these people in all these different places? What do they try to do?
I see some typing going on. This is good.
And when we're talking about the experience age, like it's, yeah, there's certain people that have been born into this time period and are more versed in sort of in what's happening. And they're current with the times, but everybody is impacted by shifts that have taken place in our world, especially in the last 20 to 25 years. And so Melody's saying, sharing something they're experiencing that sparks emotion, and that's definitely it. And if you look at all these pictures, these people are putting themselves into a place, right? They're implanting themselves into the scenery. You know, you see people now, and they're not taking pictures of the scenery anymore. They're taking pictures of themselves in the scenery because they're becoming part of the experience. And I want you to take that concept a step further into, what about your workplace? How would somebody see themselves there and implant themselves into your workplace? How could you make that easier for them? And that's what we're really going to be talking about here. And now we'll move on to the old school way of showing slides, which my baby pictures are kind of on some
Does
of those
everyone
things.
know what's in this picture?
Yeah, this is something that you can now see on those joke sort of memes and videos and things like that of what people that are coming into the workforce don't know, or objects that they can't identify. These slide projectors, which I think Ed, you admitted to actually having the table
I,
that
I,
that
I have
thing is
my
on as well?
grandparents' old slide projector. I actually do, and it still works. Yes.
And the custom slide projector table that probably cost like several $100s or something
Yeah.
at the time. But anyway, yes, the dreaded slideshow, right? When people finally curated all their pictures and everything and put together this presentation they're going to show of their vacation or their trip away. Fortunately, we no longer have to deal with them. We have to deal with everybody's vacations as they're happening. It's live, right? It's
Mhm.
being fed to you through Instagram, through Facebook, TikTok. They're doing videos of what they're experiencing in the moment because that's the pace of life and that's the speed at which things are happening. So when Ed's talking about like we got to wait a week for somebody to come back so they can be in the interview, everybody is way down the road. They've moved on to about six other things in a week because, or God knows how many other things, because it's all happening real time and our attention spans have shrunk to next to nothing. It's not that they don't even like they're not interested anymore. They can't even remember you by then. That's where we're at. So the candidate experience could be turning people off because today's candidates just don't have time to wait around. If you have practices that are too old and haven't kept up with the times or the changes, then those are the business practices that can be turning people off. Like I think at this point, even having to wait for responses on things, people are so used to instant gratification that if they're not getting a response immediately back from the chat function on your site, that can be too long for them to even bother filling out an application. And at the pace that technology moves, you can actually get AI to provide information quite easily now. And I mean, even since last year, it's improved exponentially. It's crazy how fast things are changing, but that's what we need to be aware of with the candidate experience is it's changing fast. So this experience age, we've got this shift to self-service. So everybody is expecting to be able to get things, acquire things right away themselves, do it themselves, find information themselves, get data themselves. And we can do this because of advances in AI software and platforms that are streaming information to us. It's all available at our fingertips, so the information is no longer the valuable asset. It's what we can do with the information. So our candidate experience can't just provide information to people anymore. It needs to provide what this will do for them, how their lives are going to change because of them being in your workplace and applying their skills with you. The next thing, like we'll see that our mobile phones are the window to the world. We can't actually function properly if we don't have it in our hands, right? Like it's not just young people, it's us. Like if we don't have our phone with us, we're lost. And it's really sad because a lot of us might know what the world was like before these phones, but nowadays if you can't look down at your phone, you almost can't speak. And that's what we're dealing with. And how many of us still have you know functions that only work on desktop, whereas everything needs to work as well, if not better, on a smartphone, which is oftentimes the only way that people are consuming any sort of information now. And then expectations, it's this instant gratification. Amazon, like if I order it today, it better be here tomorrow afternoon at the latest. That type of expectation on service, it's it's the same expectation that they have for responses from a potential employer. And even though we think that that's kind of out of line, that's doesn't it doesn't matter because that's their expectation. And we have to manage those expectations. At least, if we can't make things happen in that next day process, have a way of mitigating that fact and making sure that people know that we're acknowledging them, that we're putting them into the flow of things, and they are actually getting some sort of gratification instantly. So this experience age and the candidate experience and how they come together, we know that the world's changed. That's the reason that we can't find people anymore. It's partly the people that are coming in to the workforce, but it's also how everybody in the workforce now interacts with technology and how their expectations have been changed by, again, the pace of life. We just expect a level of engagement that we never expected before. We used to actually expect that if we got a response that we were lucky. We were the fortunate one that got chosen, because we were used to mailing things off or submitting applications and never hearing anything back. But think about what it's like on social media. You post something, what do you expect? Like, if you're not getting likes and comments, I mean, you're taking it down. You don't want people to see that nobody responded to that. And likewise, when people make comments, they want to have a dialogue, they want interaction. We've been trained to expect that even people that we don't know or have not connected with start dialogues with us, have conversations. And that expectation is impacting how the people showing up, the candidates that are applying to our companies, are expecting us to interact with them. And it's just the way it is. Everybody is expecting engagement. And if we don't engage, then we look like we're a place that's not going to be any fun, that doesn't care, that has low standards, and that impacts people's perception. And that is partly a reason why people move on and we don't hear from them again. So we need to be able to reach out to these people wherever they are. So it's whatever platform they're on. And when it comes to the people that you want working for you and their level of education, the circles that they mix in, their age group, the demographics, you need to look at the platforms that are most suited to the candidates you want to attract. So in a lot of cases, in the business sphere, yes, LinkedIn is one of the platforms, and one of the biggest platforms, because it's for finding jobs. But then where do people engage and interact? I mean, there might be some places on Facebook where it makes sense, Instagram, where more people seem to be shifting, or TikTok, where the younger people that like watching all sorts of videos are moving. It's just a matter of knowing where people are consuming information, and then figuring out how can we grab their interest and how can we start that dialogue sooner, so that we can be interacting with potential candidates and creating the pool of candidates in advance before we actually need them. And yeah, the lines between HR and marketing are getting blurred. So we need to be considering, not just in terms of the customer side of things, how we have a funnel of getting leads that turn into customers and they're going through the customer journey. We have to think about the candidates and how we create a funnel of people that, they're starting to develop an interest and wonder about the company, and then they are starting to look in and research and gain some insights on your company, to the point where they're like, look, there's an opportunity there. And they start to want to interact and find out more about it and see if it could fit their life, to the point where they're making that buy-in decision instead of buying. Then they're going to say, yes, this is the place I want to work. But again, we have that expectation where if I want something today and I order it and pay for it, it's going to be at my house tomorrow. And so we have to make that experience, the candidate experience, concise. It can't be too long. We got to keep it within that time frame so that it addresses our 24-hour kind of mentality. And I understand, yeah, you can't have a person apply and then be hired in 24 hours, say, because there has to be some vetting and we have to see if they're a fit. We have to assess. But we do need to have interaction with them within that window. And they need to know that there's somebody else on the other side of that apply button. So you got to wonder if one of your business processes that is turning candidates away, is it the time delay factor on even how long it takes to respond to a submitted resume, or if they submit a question through the chat function, are they getting a response back soon enough? Because if they aren't, they might have already chatted with a few other possible employers, and started the courtship with them. So being concise is key. And the next thing that we need to look at is, are you consistent? Because since everything is being done online, they could be finding you in a number of places. They could have come across you for the first time because it was maybe in one of their social feeds on Instagram, or a friend of theirs forwarded some sort of post on LinkedIn and they were looking at you there. And so then they click through to your website. Is there a consistent brand presence for you between that LinkedIn post and the careers page? Because if the careers page looks like something totally different, they might not know they're in the right place, but they also might think, well, hey, that doesn't look good. And there's nobody more up on personal branding than Generation Z, the new generations that are in the workforce. They are so good at that. And so they expect that consistency in how things look and how you portray yourselves across all the platforms that you're on. So if you have your LinkedIn, the company LinkedIn page, you've got a company Instagram page and Facebook page, and then your careers page and what's up on Glassdoor and on Indeed. Everything, the branding, the colors needs to look the same because there has to be consistency to build that trust and keep that trust. So concise and consistent, and then finally engaging. We talked about this. It's that expectation that because of our social media culture, and it's the sad truth, like the Generation Z has grown up with social media and they have an expectation of that's how we interact. And the new generation that's coming through the pipeline, we don't know what it's called yet, but like they've grown
Actually, I
up with
just
the
read, Paul.
polarization.
I just read alpha. Alpha's
Alpha,
coming
right?
next.
Yeah, they're
Yes,
starting the alphabet again, but in Greek.
exactly.
So that's that's what the new generation is coming up, and I don't know if that's gonna impact how aggressive they are if they're all alphas, but who knows? So this level of engagement, it's key. If we don't have engagement, then people are turned off. They're put off by the candidate experience. So those are the key factors: consistent, concise, consistent, and engaging. Ed, did you want to talk to the
Yeah,
employee
I can
engagement?
speak to this. Sure, sure. So when you think about where Paul just left off with this idea of engaging your candidates. So let's say that you have a 2-week hiring window where you know that from the time you get a resume, you can probably get someone started in 2 weeks. That's a long time. To Paul's example of you order on Amazon, you get tomorrow. 2 weeks is forever anymore. What are we doing to keep that candidate engaged during those 2 weeks? To keep them fired up about you? Because they're probably still doing some other interviewing. So what are the touch points that we have, right? That's part of giving them an experience prior to them joining you. But now they've joined us and we gave them this great candidate experience. Well, what kind of employment experience are they going to have? And so what I want to make very clear is that employee engagement and employee experience are not the same things. They're in the same family, they're hanging out together, but they're different. Engagement is my level of commitment. Some people say it's the level of happiness you might have in your job, okay? The experience is what I live in from 9 to 5. So if I'm a construction worker and I like the crew I'm working with, and we take pride in doing good work, I'm probably engaged. What's my experience? Well, do I have the right tools to do my job? Do I have the right information to do my job? We know it's going to be hot some days, cold others, and dirty, right? Those are all parts of the experience, okay? And we can manage those things. We can't control someone's happiness. We can certainly do employee engagement activities to foster, but we can't control whether someone chooses to be happy in their job. But we can absolutely control their experience. And so when we think about designing an employee experience, all we're doing is we're saying, okay, employees, what are your expectations? What are your needs and wants out of your work life? And then we look at, as an organization, how do we design our processes, our work life around those expectations and wants? And where those two things intersect, where we're able to take their needs and wants and design our organizational experience around them, that's where we get the employee experience in the center of these two circles here. Okay. Now, I was presenting back in the fall at a conference of long-term care and nursing facility. And at this point, I was doing this topic. And at this point, someone raised their hand and said, yeah, but come on. I mean, you know what happens in nursing homes, right? You know the kind of jobs we have, and you know what these nurses and LPNs and CNAs have to do. I said, I do. And she goes, it ain't sexy. I said, I know, I get it. But don't you think that when these folks went to their certification classes or school to get those degrees or registrations, that they knew the kind of work they were going to get into? And so for the most part, yeah, they probably did. And so we don't want to hang our hat on, oh, well, I'm just in a manufacturing environment. I'm making widgets all day long. What do you want me to do with that, Ed? I'm not in a bank or a professional building where the floors are polished and we've got the oak desks and all that. But again, someone who is going into manufacturing to work a CNC machine or be a welder, through their education, they've come to know what they're going to expect in their workplace. So one would argue that, yeah, if I walked into a job at a bank or in a professional firm, say like an architecture firm or an engineering firm, I would expect the place to be clean and bright and cheery and professional looking, because that's the aura of what we want to present. In the manufacturing world, I'm going to expect hopefully the latest and greatest machines. I'm going to still expect a clean environment. I'm going to expect safety. I'm going to expect that we work as a team to make our widgets, those kinds of things. And so these are all things that we control. And where I see organizations failing to cultivate a really good employee experience is because they want to hang their hat and say, well, my work isn't sexy, and so I can't really have a good employee experience. Yes, you can, because it's not just the work environment. It's the type of work. It's who they're working with. It's, do they have the latest and greatest equipment, right? And so those are all parts of the employee experience puzzle. And the reason this is so critical is that this use of social media is what's driving connections between people. Now, for those of us in here, it may not be the kind of connections that we would prefer to have. We might prefer to shake hands, go out to lunch together, go to happy hour, whatever, to make those connections. But I'm kind of envious of the younger generation's ability to maintain connections from long distances. Those of us in this room probably can remember a childhood well before social media and cell phones and everything else. And so if you had a good friend who moved away, you either became pen pals or you just lost contact with them. Now with social media, I mean, these kids, my daughter's got friends all over the country that she's met from softball or school or whatever else, and they stay in touch this way. And so this idea that we can't have a connection in the virtual world is quickly becoming a fallacy. And so when Paul shared those pictures of people sharing those experiences, that's how people are crossing long distances. And we have to take that same process and say, okay, if I'm recruiting someone in the virtual world, how do I show them the experience that they're going to have here? Because I'm not walking them through my facility right now or just yet, but I can show them online what life is like. I can have some employees that are working, looking up from their desk and saying, oh, I love XYZ company. I get to do this and I'm working on this right now. You don't have to have a professional videographer do it. You can walk around with your cell phone, make it, snap it, upload it, done. So we're not talking about, and we're not necessarily advocating having to spend a lot of money for big production videos and things. Like, make it real. Heck, even let some of your people, just do the little selfie video, right? And say, hey, I'm working on this right now, and I love my job here. And if you want a cool place to work and you want to work with cool people, come see us. Boom, done. Doesn't even have to be scripted. In fact, actually, I think, and Paul, I don't know what you think, but for me, the more real, the better.
And that's what I keep on, and you'll see I show it later, is I keep going back to how HubSpot's done such a good job of showing their company
Mhm.
uh, from inside out. But and I'll show you in a little bit. But like with this experience age, like this whole, like it's created a lot of transitions between, like Ed was saying, how people communicate and how people connect. And because they're expecting connections to be through, through platforms and through screens, like we're exchanging a lot more than just the information. We're exchanging the feelings, the sentiment, which is why we can start transmitting culture through our platforms, and we can start transmitting what it's like inside the company and how people feel and how people are impacting each other, the difference they're making. We can transmit it outwardly because we know that Generation Z, they're really socially conscious and they want to know that your company is making a difference. They want to know that their mental well-being is going to be looked after on the inside of the company. So they want to see people sharing the ups and downs and just, that it's real in here.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to show that. And that's what these technology platforms have made possible. And we have to be using them.
So I
And
think,
let's
yeah,
go
I mean,
ahead.
I think what it comes down to, Paul, if you look at the second bullet point here, right? We're no longer just looking for information from organizations or from each other. We want that emotional connection. So, what are we doing with our candidates to drive an emotional connection? To get them to say, hey, not only do they have a job that I'm qualified for, but I want to work for them and not the 5 other companies that have the same job that I'm qualified for. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about that connection and making that. And it's not unlike Paul talked earlier about the whole marketing, right? When we get marketed to, all marketing is to drive a reaction in us, to make a connection. Ooh, I want to feel the way that actor looks driving that car, or I want to be as happy as that person using the latest phone, or whatever it happens to be. They're trying to drive that emotion for us to make the purchasing decision. That's exactly what we're trying to do in HR now. We want them to make an emotional purchasing decision around coming to work for us. So why should we care? I mean, honestly, it's where today's generations are. They want these positive experiences, and you could say, oh, they just want to be coddled. I mean, don't we all want to have positive experiences at work? So why wouldn't we design our culture around the vibrancy of positive experiences? But what this means is that this has to be a business priority for us in HR. It's no longer about, oh, we're going to plan the holiday party. Oh, let's have football Fridays. Hey, wear your jersey. I mean, I'm not knocking those things, but they're not experiences. Those are just events. And if you had football Friday this past week for the Super Bowl, was anyone today talking about football Friday and wearing their jerseys? Probably not. Okay. Now, again, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, is that really an experience? Now, I happen to be, since we're talking about the big game, I was on an airplane on Sunday. And, it was full size plane. There was only 40 people on it. So the 3 flight attendants didn't have a lot to do. Everyone had their own row, and 90% of us were watching the game. So people were oohing and on and cheering and whatever, and you could hear little side bets going. People were betting drinks over stuff, and the flight attendants were coming around and watching the football game. And I got off the plane and I was like, that was a cool experience. And yeah, there were a lot of factors that came together to make that experience, but that's what we're talking about. Do our employees walk away saying, I had a good day at work today? Not every day is going to be good. We know that. But that's what we're trying to drive in them, that their overall work experience is a really good one. And it's good enough that when the bad days invariably happen, it's still okay. And so, guess what? we're back to our business processes. What gets in the way of delivering on an employee experience that they want? And can we identify that? And maybe one of the best things we can do is ask our people, what's getting in the way of a great experience here? Now, if they start saying, well, I really hate the customer. Okay, but you're in a customer facing job. Okay, we got a problem there. Maybe we don't have a good match. But within reason, let's ask our people what's getting in the way. What business processes are not serving their purpose? For instance, and I'll use this example just because, as I said, I was with a bank the last couple of days. I said, what is because all the bank managers were in this room, so they had head tellers and things running branches. And I said, okay, so what if a disgruntled a disgruntled customer comes in and says, oh, hey, I want this resolved? Does that head person have certain authority to make a decision and say, you know what, Mr. Customer, you're right. We messed up. Let me make this right for you. Or, oh, gee, I don't have authority to do anything. The managers are in a meeting. We'll have to get back to you tomorrow. Okay. That's a bad experience for the customer. It's also a bad experience for our employee because they're actually telling the customer, I don't really have the authority to do anything around here, And so those are things that we need to look at and say, okay, how can we make that experience better for our people? Because ultimately it's usually better for the customer too. Paul, I'm going to throw it back at you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Basically, as humans, we're seeking experiences beyond information, right? We're seeking the evolution of the human experience, and that's what we want to be providing here. Is not the way things have always been done, but something that's catering to what the expectations people have and how it's developing. And we've just been talking about this concept that we want to grasp in how we're reaching out to candidates. Can we actually find out what they want and give it to them? And can we find what they're looking for in our people? So I think it's the next slide that talks about how to do that. And so the big key questions to ask are, does your business understand the expectation for the employee experience? Because coming to work no longer is a fact of, you're lucky to have this job and I pay you. It's, no, we're lucky to have these people in these jobs, right? Because those two hands are better than none, and nobody is better than anybody. Like, I took a picture of that because it's quite funny. But it's no longer a matter of people are seeking these spots because they're privileged to be able to have a job. We have to find out why our people are here and why they stay. And when we find that, that's gold, and we can share that. And do you ask questions to discover and understand your employees' desires? Because that's the key. And that's why Ed said, oh, Paul, you know what? I think you'll be able to help a lot of the people I work with, because finding why people are here and why they stay and what they like about it, it's usually not what you think. It's these things that are almost obscure and that just work out in their life and their lifestyle. And there's other people out there that have lifestyles like the people that are working for you. And they're seeking a place where they can be a full expression of themselves. And we have to show them that, yeah, you know what, just like those people taking selfies on a bridge, if you took a selfie here in this office, it would be you in the right spot. And that's how we want it to be. And then, can your business translate these desires into a unified experience vision and make the vision a reality? And that's transitioning into creating your employment brand. It's how you market the culture inside your organization to the people on the outside. And in the next slide, you'll see that culture. Oh, no, okay. So this is HubSpot, and they actually have HubSpot Life on Instagram, so that people looking to see what the employees at HubSpot do, like people that aren't employees, can see what employees are up to. And so the employees are encouraged to just put up those candid shots, like the little selfies and the videos that they take of parties, of projects they're working on, of the work they're doing, the things they're proud of. They can share those things, and you can get a sense of the vibe there, and it looks pretty fun. And so people are thinking, I'd like to be part of that.
And Paul, tell the folks where you grabbed the screenshot from.
This is right off their careers page. There was such a wealth of information that I keep going back there. I don't know that there's actually been a webinar we've done since we pulled up HubSpot
Mm,
in one of our examples where we haven't included something that they're doing there, because they're doing
yeah.
such a good job of presenting their employment brand and showing what it is on the inside. And they have social proof. Like, employees actually say, we like it here. And that's what you do on Glassdoor. You got either you have all your employees saying why they hate it here, or you have all your employees saying why we love it here. And that is something to manage, because nowadays it's not like there isn't like this but on the other side of the wall they can't see what's going on the inside. Now you need to be transparent. And in the last webinar we did, we had people saying, well, yeah, but like people don't like doing these jobs, nobody wants to work anymore. And we find the exact opposite in a lot of places that are running their businesses properly. They still create a nice place to work, even if the job's not sexy. And they still create meaningful work for people that are doing repetitive tasks. And if people can actually attach their value to the meaning of the work they're doing rather than the task that they're doing over and over again to accomplish that, then you've done your job right. If people feel that the company mission is their mission, even though they're doing some really grueling job, then they feel like they're making a difference in the world. And that's how you get reviews like this, a 4.6 out of 5 stars, and over again, people saying this is one of the best places to work. And we've seen it in places where people are sucking the water out of drowned out basements and putting things back together after fires of like damaged properties. Like, people like doing work if it has meaning.
Yeah. And I remember, Paul, that the gentleman that said that nobody wants to work anymore. And I remember that really disheartens me, because I know that when that guy sits across the desk from someone who's a candidate, that's the aura he's projecting. And what a shame, right? Because while that's not a business process, that's an attitude that's clearly getting in the way of him finding good employees.
So just quickly, your employment brand is your culture plus your employee experience. When you put those two together and you market it, that's the brand that you're putting out to attract those candidates into your funnel and then bring them into your company as employees.
And hint, hint, the 2 pillars topic of next month is going to be on culture and the employment brand. Since we spent so much time on the employee experience today, we're going to be tying this little equation all up for you.
So to build your employment brand, first, just how do you find out if your employees like it here and what do they like? You sit down with them and you have a conversation, and you just make yourself prepared to hear anything they give you, because you do want to know the things that they don't like and you want to know the things they like, because both of those are opportunities for you. Because if you can keep on working towards making the place more what they like and what they want, they have an understanding. They know that work can be hard, and they're not expecting all roses, but you want to know, because you want to be transparent. You want to tell the truth about what it's like here, not a sugar-coated bait and switch. Somebody's going to be sadly disappointed once they figure it out kind of story. And then highlight those features that are the best assets that you have. What do people love the best? Well, guaranteed there's somebody else out there that's going to think that that is a huge plus. So when you find something that a bunch of people are saying that this is a real plus to working here, start talking about it, talk it up, put it out there, and you will see like all those on HubSpot. You can click on employee videos just in the bottom corner. It's right on their careers page, and they will have like 50 videos of people on their smartphones, standing in their home office or standing on site, and they're just doing a a rough, raw, whatever kind of video, and they have all sorts of topics. They've categorized all these best things into different topics on work-life balance, on autonomy, on new projects and inspiration and social justice and diversity. They're all categorized because they've gotten so good at highlighting what's good about here, and then market it. And the fact that you can find all those videos on their site, and I highly recommend you go look at HubSpot careers, because all the things that we've been talking about in these webinars, they are doing it right. So marketing is just sharing. Share those testimonials, quotes, and videos. Put it out on your social media. Set guidelines. Just give people, you can post pictures of what you're doing within reason. Like, here's the guidelines. Don't share confidential stuff, and get it out there. We will reward you for doing that, because it can bring us people.
So we're right at the top of the hour. We love to hear your feedback on these webinars. So if you would do us a favor, it'll take you 30 seconds. Go ahead and scan this QR code for us. It's going to ask you just a couple of questions about today's webinar so we can learn. And in exchange for these couple seconds of your time, the code should already be put in there for experience. You're going to get my white paper on the employee experience. It's going to fill in some things that we didn't have a chance to talk about today. So I think that while you're doing that, I think the biggest thing there that Paul ended with was, once you gather all that stuff, we've got to market it. And that'll be a theme throughout a lot of our webinars this year, about how we market this stuff. And we're getting more and more case studies from clients that we're working with over the years of how marketing their jobs and their workplace experience, that's where the magic sauce really is. It's not just, oh, well, hey, I marketed, I put it on Indeed, it's cool. No. That's just posting. We're going to talk a lot about marketing over the next couple of months in these webinars. So we want to thank you for joining today, and for your interaction and for your use of the chat function. Normally we would open it up for questions, but I want to honor folks' time. So if you would like to make contact with us, you can certainly hit my website at edcrow.com, and you'll find my email there. Happy to answer any questions we did not get to today. And we certainly look forward to seeing you again March 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern for the Two Pillars talk, where we're going to talk a lot about culture and employment brand further. So with that, Paul, do you have any final comments for the gang?
Just thank you for sharing Valentine's Day lunch with us, and I hope this evening's a lot more interesting than what we shared
Hope
today.
you have a little more romantic dinner than you had lunch, right? All right, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. We hope to talk with you soon.
Thank you.